And this is the difference between that kind of society which we call civilized and that much more ancient kind of society which is still viable and still survives, which we call primitive, in which everybody is potentially a chief, and which everybody, like among the Comanche or the Sioux, everybody in the whole culture was expected to go out and have a vision at one time in his life. In other words, to leave the society, to have some transcendental experience, to have a song and a totem come to him, which he need tell no one ever, and then come back and live with this double knowledge in society.
In other words, through having had his own isolation, his own loneliness, and his own vision, he knows that the game rules of society are fundamentally an illusion.
And then the society not only permits that, the society is built on that.
Is built on that, right.
But everybody has one side of the nature which has been out of it.
That society is strong and viable, which recognizes its own provisionality.
And no one who ever came in contact with the Plains Indians didn't think they were men.
Didn't think what?
Right.
They were men.
They were men.
Yeah.
Every record of American Indians, from the cavalry, the pioneers, the missionaries, the Spaniards, says every one of these people was men. In fact, I was reading just the other day talking about the Yurok Indians, an early explorer up there, commented on their fantastic self-confidence. Said every Indian has this fantastic self-confidence. And they laugh at me, he said. They laugh at me and they say, "Aren't you sorry you're not an Indian?" Poor wretched Indians, the fellow said. Well, that is because every one of them has gone out and had this vision experience, has been completely alone with himself and face-to-face with himself, and has contacted powers outside of anything that society could give him. And society expects him to contact powers outside of society in those cultures.
Yes, every healthy culture does. Every healthy culture provides for there being non-joiners. Sannyasi, hermits, monks,
this is the next step.
Every healthy society has to tolerate this.
See, a society like the Comanche or the Sioux demands that everybody go out there and have this vision. And incorporates it and ritualizes it within the culture. Then a society like India, a step more civilized, permits some individuals to have these visions, but doesn't demand it of everyone.
But you have to wonder why some people are ready to drop out than others. It may be explained by theory of reincarnation. The people that don't want to drop out and can't conceive of living on this planet outside of the prop television studio are just unlucky enough to have been born into this sort of thing, maybe the first or second time. They're still entranced by all of the man-made props. But there's no question that we should, I think we should consider how more and more people who are ready to drop out
if there is a value in being a dropout, that is to say being an outsider, you can only appreciate and realize this value if there are, in contrast with you, insiders and squares. The two are mutually supportive.
Yeah, if someone says to me, I just can't conceive of dropping out, I can say, well, you're having fun with this let's go around in? Fine. I'm sure we've all done that many times in the past.
But the two groups, the insiders and the outsiders.
I don't think it's too vague. It doesn't say drop out of what precisely. And what everybody's dealing with is people. It's not dealing with institutions, also dealing with them, but also dealing with people working within them, including the police.
Like you have to be able to, if you're going to talk this way, you have to be able to specifically say to someone in Wichita, Kansas, who says, I'm going to drop out.
Yeah.
What do you advise? How do you advise me to stay living around here in this area, which I like?
Let's be less historical now for a while. Let's be very practical about ways in which people who want to find the tribal way...
Well, this is what I've been telling to kids all over Michigan and Kansas. For example, I've had this question. I tell them, first of all, do you want to live here or do you want to go someplace else?
Good.
All right, they say, I want to stay around where I am. I say, okay. Get in touch with the Indian culture here. Find out what was here before. Find out what the mythologies were. Find out what the local deities were. Get all of this out of books. Go and look at your local archaeological sites.
Beautiful.
Pay a reverent visit to the local American Indian tombs and also the tombs of the early settlers. Find out what your original ecology was. Is it short grass prairie? Is it long grass prairie here? Go out and live on the land for a while. Set up a tent and camp out and watch the clouds and watch the water and watch the land. And get a sense of what the climate is here, because since you've been living in a house all your life, you probably don't know what the climate is.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Then decide how you want to make your living here. Do you want to be a farmer, or do you want to be a hunter and food gatherer? You start from the ground up. And you can do it in any part of this country today, cities and all.
You
But for this continent, I take it back to the Indians.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Find out what the Indians were up to in your own area, whether it's Utah or Kansas.
That is
or,
a stroke
New
of
Jersey.
cellular revelation and genius, Gary. That's one of the wisest things I've heard anyone say in years. That's exactly how it should be done. I do see the need for transitions, though, and you say that there will be city people as well as country people and mountain people. I would suggest that for the next year or two or three, which are going to be nervous, transitional, mutational years, where things are going to happen very fast, by the way, that the transition could be facilitated if every city set up little meditation rooms and little shrine rooms where the people in transition dropping out can meet and meditate together. It is already happening at the psychedelic shop. It's happening in New York. I see no reason, though, why there shouldn't be 10 or 15 or 20 such places in San Francisco.
There already are.
Yeah, I know, but let's encourage that. And, I was just in Seattle, and I was urging the people there. Hundreds of them crowd into coffee shops, and this beautiful energy. They are liberated people, these kids, but they don't know where to go, and they just need. They don't need leadership, but they need, I think, a variety of suggestions from people who have thought about this, giving them the options to move in any
Well,
way.
I'd like to see the
different. Just a minute.
Yeah.
The different meditation rooms can have different styles. One can be Zen, one can be macrobiotic, one can be bhakti chanting, one can be rock and roll psychedelic, one can be lights. If we learn anything from ourselves, we learn that God delights in variety. They've got to meet each other and form these tribal, I would say, reincarnation groups, because the people who are ready to drop out and turn on will come to these centers, and they'll wander around and they'll form natural cellular groups, and they will leave the city. I would suggest as practical step number 2 that the human being in San Francisco be a model. We've all tried different models of summer schools and institutes and research projects and individual dropouts and psychedelic celebrations and so forth, and the Avalon and Fillmore and so forth. I would say that the human being was a tremendously important thing in the consciousness of San Francisco. Now, if that thing could happen in every large city in the country. And again, the beautiful thing about the being was it had no leadership, it had no big financing, it would just grow automatically.
No, but we're accused of being leaders. We're trying to, what were we doing up on that platform?
That's a charge that doesn't bother me at all.
There were 50 people up on that platform, and every one of them was a leader. So were the people in the audience. The reason was that nobody came out and said, we are the leaders. And
No, nobody said
because
that.
that's bullshit.
Nobody claims to be leader, but I remember sitting up there.
They can say, every time they say you're a leader, you point to Snyder.
Well, now look here.
Yeah.
You see?
I do that anyway.
Yeah, I know, but the press has a leadership complex.
Yeah,
That's how you
they
lead
keep calling Gary my disciple.
Oh, they want to find ringleaders.
Can I have you blowing his conch horn?
One of the 4 philosophical questions is who started it. And whenever the police or the press barge into a situation, they want to know who started it.
Right.
In other words, because they're still thinking about God and the first cause, and they
Who's
want to
in
know
charge?
who started, who's in charge, and so on.
Who gets
But
the
you
credit,
know,
who gets the right?
let's get back to a fundamental thing. I think that what you are really, all of you are having the courage to say, is that the absolutely primary thing is that there be a change of consciousness in the individual, that he escape from the hallucination that he is a separate ego in an alien universe, and that we all come to realize primarily that each one of us is the whole works. That each one of us is what is real and has been real for always and always and always and will ever be. And although the time language may not be appropriate here, but nevertheless we are that. And to the extent that it can be spread around, that's what you and I are. And we lose our anxieties, and we lose our terror of death, and our terror of unimportance, and all that kind of thing. That this is the absolutely essential ingredient, which if we get hold of that point, all the rest will be added unto you, in the sense of seek you first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you.
Right.
Isn't that what you're saying? I mean, isn't that absolutely basic, that even if this is only realized in a statistical minority, nevertheless it's immensely powerful.
It affects consciousness.
It affects everybody.
Yeah. I would add to practical step number 2 that more celebrations be set up all over or more beings.
The practical, it just occurred to me, the practical details. The model of it is something like the Mahalila. Like you're asking, how's it going to work? Well, now, the Mahalila is a group of about 3 different families who have sort of pooled their resources, none of which are very great. But they have decided to play together and to work together and to take care of each other. And that means, like all of them are doing have ways of getting a small amount of bread, which they share. And other people contribute a little money when it comes in. And then they work together on creative projects, like they're working together on a light show right now for a poetry reading that we're going to give. And they consider themselves a kind of extended family or clan. And like when they went to the Bian, they had a banner which said Mahalila, like that was their clan banner.
I saw that,
yeah.
That's the model.
That's the model. And the model for the time is that breaking out of the smaller family organization, we work in slightly larger structures, like clan structures, in which people do work at various jobs and bring in whatever bread they can from various jobs, but they're willing to pool it and share it, and they learn how to work and play together. And then they relate that to a larger sense of the tribe, which is also loose. But for the time being, everybody has to be able from time to time to do some little job. But the reference is, the thing that makes it different is that you don't bring it home to a very tight individual or one monogamous family unit, but you bring it home to a slightly larger unit where the sharing is greater. I think that's where it starts.
No, I think that's very important.
Extended family.
The extended family, I think, is where it starts. And my own particular hobby horse on this is that the extended family leads to matrilineal descent. And when we get matrilineal descent, then we'll have group marriage, and when we have group marriage, we'll have the economy licked. Because with the group marriage, capitalism is doomed, and civilization goes out.
Practical step number 3, which I would like to see.
Go on, Tim.
You really are up to the occasion. You're really up to the occasion. That's practical step number 3.
I think we should encourage extended families everywhere.
Really?
Well, it's very practical to encourage extended families because the present model of the family is a hopeless breakdown. Because, first of all, the family is an agrarian culture institution, which is not suited to an urban culture, because all the family consists in is a dormitory, where a wife and children are located, and a husband who engages in a mysterious activity in an office or a factory, in which neither the wife nor the children have any part nor interest, save that he bring home an abstraction called money, and where there are lots of pretty secretaries, then the scene in which he actually works, exactly. And so they have no relation whatsoever to what he does. And furthermore, the awful thing about the family as it exists at the moment is that the husband and the wife both feel guilty about not bringing up their children properly. And therefore they live for their children instead of living out their own lives and doing their own interesting work, in which the children would automatically become interested as participants and watchers on the side. As it is, they're doing everything they say. We live, we work, we earn our money for you, darlings. And these poor darlings feel all those things thrown at them and they don't know what to do with it. And then they are sent away to school, shrilled off to school, as Dylan Thomas put it, and to be educated for everything and nothing.
By strangers.
By strangers.
Who are dubious.
Who will teach them all sorts of purely...
moral, spiritual, intellectual, and sexual characteristics.
Right. Abstract formulations and things they'll learn, and the family has no reality. And the greatest institution today in the American family is the babysitter. Someone to just take the children out of our consciousness while we enjoy ourselves.
And the death sitter to take the old people out of it.
And the death sitter, exactly.
And even death has been taken from the people.
Yes.
Everything has.
The courtesy of the mortician. Yes.
A good death.
A good death is no longer possible, practically. So,
I have a 4-stage thing. American Indian technologies,
practical now,
meditation centers, group marriage, and periodical gatherings of the tribes.
I don't agree with group marriage. We are tribal. We are a tribal people. Anthill sexuality. Every woman.
Wait a minute. That's what I said.
Every woman is all woman. If you can't find all women in one woman, it's your problem.
I do think it's possible for some of us to have found all women in one woman.
I want to get back at something.
I mean, like,
let me get something with him. Infidelity means denying your commitments.